Good morning. Welcome to IndigPatriot News, September 1st, 2020. I'm going to cover a couple articles that are of interest to me. Okay? The first one I'm going to do is more of the same. Barr's removal of national security official raises concern. This is a left 75%, center 25%, and the right isn't covering it at all. At least not on the Ground News app. Current and former national security officials are raising concerns over Attorney General William Barr's recent decision to remove the head of a Justice Department office that helps ensure federal counterterrorism and counterintelligence activities are legal and replace him with a political appointee with relatively limited experience. The timing of the personnel change, coming just 2 months before the U.S. presidential election and in the midst of a battle against domestic terrorism and foreign interference in the election, has worried current and former members of the national security community. Yeah. So, this also goes in line with the idea that they're not going to be doing in-person election interference reports and the replacement of the head of national security with, Richard Gurnell. It's solidifying all the intelligence community around Donald Trump, which is kind of like an oxymoron, right? Oxymoron. Florida man known as the Antifa Hunter sentenced to more than 3 years over racist threats. Left 31, center 31, and right 38. I'm a big badass. A Florida man known as the Antifa Hunter, who launched online harassment campaigns against those who disagreed with white supremacy, was sentenced on Monday to 3 years and 5 months in prison. A federal judge in Virginia sentenced Daniel McMahon, 32, of Brandon, Florida, after he admitted to using social media to threaten a black activist to stop him from running for office and threatening to sexually assault a female activist's autistic daughter, the Associated Press reported. Trash. Guy is trash. McMahon pleaded guilty to cyberstalking and bias-motivated interference with a candidate for elective office in April. The FBI recovered his computer and several loaded guns from McMahon's home that he shared with his parents. Prosecutors said he lived in the basement, huh? He didn't. It doesn't say he lived in the basement. I shouldn't say that kind of stuff. With the computer showing evidence of his harassment campaigns and his interest in racially motivated killings. McMahon operated cyberstalking through the name Jack Corbin, an alias under which he convinced activist Don Gathers against running for the city council of Charlottesville, Virginia. Prosecutors said he alleged Gathers had attacked a white supremacist group member and called for a diversity of tactics to be used against him, according to the Associated Press. See, this is what happens when you bully people online. Some people will shrink under that bullying and your tactics will work, but some people, you're going to get got. Okay? That's just a fact. We need more mutual respect instead of bullying people all the time. Have a conversation, and if you can't hang in the conversation, then maybe consider why you're having an issue with that conversation. Consider where your bias leads you. All right. Psychologist-backed documentary labels Trump malignant narcissist. Unsurprisingly, this is a 50-50, 50 left, 50 center, with nothing from the right. I am unsurprised by that. This is my surprised phase. As battle lines are drawn ahead of Donald Trump's bid for re-election, a new documentary based on the testimony of mental health professionals has labeled the U.S. president a malignant narcissist. Unfit: The Psychology of Donald Trump, released on streaming platforms Tuesday, claims not to be politically motivated. It doesn't have to be politically motivated, okay? The guy's behavior speaks for itself. If we didn't know which party he was representing, I think that some of the conversation would be a little bit different. The film interviews several psychologists who argue they have a medical duty to warn the U.S. public about Trump's alleged mental state. According to psychologist John Gartner, Trump clearly exhibits 4 key symptoms of malignant narcissism, the most destructive personality type, including paranoia, narcissism, antisocial personality disorder, and sadism. This type of leader pops up all throughout history, and they're always extraordinarily disruptive. You cannot tell me that all the stuff that's happening currently is exactly replicated from pre 4 years ago, because that is, we could just look at the news, we can look at social media, we can look at everything and determine that would be blatantly false. Gartner noted that the same label has been applied to Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. What is so strange is that we're not used to seeing this type of leader in America. But the film's central premise of professionally diagnosing a public figure from afar is contentious. Republican candidate Barry Goldwater successfully sued a magazine after it published a damning survey of psychologists speculating about his mental health during his failed 1964 run. The psychiatric community later ruled that offering a professional opinion without an in-person examination is unethical. However, Gartner argues the rise of observation-based diagnosis over traditional Freudian psychoanalysis and the wealth of public data about Trump's behavior makes that rule outdated. So when you are making a determination on somebody, and it's the 1960s. You didn't have every move that the individual made scrutinized. I could kind of get what they're going for, but the fact of the matter is this guy's been under the public eye since the 80s at least. Okay, so to pretend that we don't have some kind of basis on his behavior is a misnomer. Okay, so this article I'm going to talk about next, Trump plane loaded with thugs under investigation, which is funny. It's a plane loaded with thugs, but the caravans that went into Portland are loaded with patriots. Anyway, left 33, right 67. I don't have a center bias here, so I'm going to go with the Washington Examiner, which is right. President Trump said a group of thugs. I don't want to take a spin. President Trump said a group of thugs in dark uniforms who traveled on a plane to Washington, D.C. is under investigation. During an interview with Fox News host Laura Ingraham that aired Monday night, the president said somebody got on a plane and made a trip to the Republican National Convention last week. While convention meetings took place in Charlotte, North Carolina, Trump and his wife, First Lady Melania Trump, delivered speeches at the White House during the virtual primetime portion of the event. Trump said that 7 people were on the train who intended to do big damage, but it was unclear if the original somebody was one of them. We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms, with gear and this and that. They're on a plane. Trump told those. Are they on the plane? He also said the matter is under investigation, couldn't talk about it further. I'll tell you sometime, he told Ingram when she pressed for more details. The Washington Examiner reached out to the White House, the Justice Department, the FBI, and the Federal Aviation Administration for comment. It doesn't look like they got any. Okay, they talk about Rand Paul claiming that he was harassed by people in the streets. He didn't claim that he was harassed by people. He claimed that he was assaulted by people, and that was incorrect. Shortly before the exchange, Trump mentioned that Joe Biden, the Democratic presidential nominee, isn't controlling his own campaign, but that instead he is being controlled by people in the dark shadows. Because this is about propaganda, okay? Several people were driving in a bus, and they were dressed in dark clothing. Several people drove in some cars, and we can make all these claims that we want without elaborating, and it paints a picture on people that as incomplete. Okay? When asked why he didn't speak out about the group in Charlottesville, his claim was he didn't have enough information at the time, that he wanted to be fair and he didn't want to say anything without having all the information to present. Boom! This is one of those situations where he's just full of shit. Okay? Again. Last article. Sorry if this is a little long. Donald Trump to visit Kenosha amid accusations he's trying to turn racial unrest into election advantage. This is left 40, center 40, and right 20. I'm going to go with, let's go with USA Today as a center. President Donald Trump will travel Tuesday to Kenosha, Wisconsin, that's today, despite accusations from Democrats that he's trying to take advantage of the turmoil there to rally supporters around his law and order campaign message. Kenosha is the latest flashpoint in violent protests after the police shooting August 23rd of Jacob Blake, a black father who was left paralyzed from the waist down. Kyle Rittenhouse, 17, was charged with shooting to dead two people during the ensuing protests. So I kind of read that not properly. There's a shooting of Jacob Blake, as we all know, on August 23rd. Kyle Rittenhouse is a separate incident where he was involved in an altercation with three people. He killed two of them and wounded another, and there's discussions on if it was self-defense or not. On the eve of the visit, Trump defended Rittenhouse, embracing the argument from the suspect attorney that he was acting in self-defense. So he's making comments on something that's still in litigation and still being investigated, and if that's not political, I'm not sure what is. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who cares, said Trump wants to go to Kenosha to highlight the federal response to the unrest and to visit hurting Americans. Trump is expected to review property damage, but has no plans to meet with Blake or his family, so who's hurting? Thursday, Trump formally accepted his party's nomination for the president in a speech that laid out a central attack line for his campaign, accusing the Democratic Party of standing with anarchists, agitators, rioters, looters, and flag burners. Trump claimed that a victory November 3rd by Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden would usher in an era of lawlessness. No one will be safe in Biden's America, the president said. Biden accused Trump of rooting for chaos and violence. Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames rather than fighting the flames, Biden said Monday in Pittsburgh. Donald Trump looks at this violence and he sees a political lifeline. Democratic state and local leaders urged Trump not to come to Kenosha. In a letter to the president, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers said, "I am concerned your presence will only hinder our healing." So he states that the Kyle Rittenhouse incident is done in self-defense. He makes no statements on the Jacob Blake shooting as it being inappropriate, which, I'm sorry, when a guy is moving away from you and you fire at him 7 times and you hit him 7 times in the back, whether he's holding a knife or not, that's inappropriate because you could make distance. That's the thing that they say, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You don't have to stand there with that gun, okay? You also have his vehicle plate numbers, you know where he lives, etc. So if you felt that much in danger, you could have called backup. Hindsight's 20/20, but the fact of the matter is shooting a guy 7 times in the back as he's retreating is an inappropriate situation, especially when his kids are in the back seat of the vehicle. And no, that's not defending a rapist. As I've spoken about in previous videos, look up the Wisconsin statute that he's been arrested, I guess, for. He's currently free, so... In any case, I'm at WIKWEKO on Twitter, IndigPatriot.com. This is about 15 minutes long. Thanks for sticking with it. Appreciate you.